Hey everybody, I can't believe we are in December already at the end of the year. So I am restructuring how I am going to be showing up on my YouTube and inviting Patreon into this whole mix. So monthly I will be talking about certain themes and energies that are coming in for this specific month. I will also do a channeled written message that can also be found on my Instagram. But on my Patreon is where I'm going to be channeling the energies that, the messages from the beings that come through that I've normally been doing on my YouTube. So there's different parts that will be able to be available in different kinds of ways. So this recording is specifically about the themes of the energy that are specifically coming in for this month, and I have 4 big ones that Spirit gave me. So for December particularly, there's, and I talk about December. It goes, because time is necessarily not linear. There's a stretch. Some of you may be experiencing this now, a little bit afterwards. Whenever you tap into these energies, kind of, they can be available to you. But specifically, so theme number one, so there's right now on the earth and within inside, there's this dichotomy of war that's being very highlighted, and this can show up as aspects of yourself. When we experience trauma, there are parts of ourself that get created to survive in certain situations, and these parts of ourselves can also actually form a sense of rivalry inside yourself. An example would be someone who has a very fighting streak, that's standing up for themselves. It is very much part of that fight or flight response of trauma. But then there's this other part of the self that was created as a people pleaser to keep the peace, that this was not okay, so this gets created. And when one gets triggered, different parts can be activated. And when these parts get activated, they can actually cause a split inside the individual, because there are these two aspects. There's one that wants to be a people pleaser, keep the peace, make sure everything's comfortable. And then there's this other aspect that wants to fight for their rights, that wants to, tear down anything and stand up for themselves. And when we allow ourselves, that what's really with the war situation in the world, right? Wherever it's happening, we feel the effects, whether we're there or not. Well, whether we're awareness, we're a collective, we're a human collective. But then also there is aspects that on an energetic level, we can be part of the situation in another kind of way. And so what is really being called is to understand what part of you is being activated. Where is there different aspects of yourself that are asking for expression in different kinds of ways? How can you talk to these parts of yourself so each of them has a voice in what you're experiencing right now, that can nurture the children, the wounded child self, to bring love and aspect to them so they can get heard and processed, right? And so this, like I said, this idea of war inside, how can you bring peace to that? And lion energy, starseed, the lion starseeds are actually really coming through this month in a sense of bringing in peace and to help us bring healing and balance to this idea of conflict. And it's not just within inside ourselves, it's exteriorly as well. And to have an awareness of when parts of you are actually activated and you're actually coming from a place of wounding versus actually really being grounded to what is happening in the now moment. And this is really a beautiful gift, because a lot of times when there is something that resembles the dogma that we experienced, or if in our mind we have this projection of, oh, I've been in this scenario before, I know how so-and-so is going to react, right? I know how these people, this situation, like having a projection that it's going to end in conflict because that's what you're used to. Spirit is asking us to really hold a space that goes beyond that. And when we have to be aware of that projection in our mind and to bring healing to this. So it's very funny how when I tapped into this energy, the word dogma came very loud. Dogma, dogmatic, all these systems that are very much operating from that place, right? And then the lion energy is actually cat, feminine, that we're going back to the time of Egyptian energy, right? And that energy is going to be coming through to bring a balance. And there are some structures that are going to fight it, and then there are others that are actually going to welcome it in. But it's to really be aware of where you're coming from in your demeanor. If you're coming from it charged from a place of trauma, that's a different energy than actually questioning where you're coming from in your intentions. Are you coming from an intention of peace, or are you coming from an intention of wounding, getting your needs met in some other way through other means, or from survival? Or is it, or like if you, or if you're coming from a place of, hey, let's collaborate. How can we, there's a problem here. How can we come at it from solution working together? And for you to question from a place of like, okay, oh wait, I actually am really charged about this right now. And if I go in to try to have a conversation where I want peace, where I want conflict to kind of be resolved, and I'm coming from conflict, then I'm holding that as in something as the trajectory going forward, right? But they also want to be very clear. There is time to have a charge, and there's time not to. But when it comes from wounding versus passion, those are two different charges. From transformed energy versus from a place of wounding. To be aware and to just observe. And see if you can alter that energy so you can come from peace for peace, standing in a place of sovereignty, and miracle to a collaboration that you may not think that could have taken place before. And number 2, so redefining this idea of safety. So what is happening is, as we do inner work, right, there's this idea of safety that one needs to do work. There's this idea, like, as we're coming more into the body, more grounding of the experience in the human, and not just in the, whether the dissociative state. Understanding what really boundary is for you is being really redefined right now in the sense of the I. The I and then the we. So the more you have an understanding of the I and your needs, these boundaries can be a sense of safety for you to engage with other people. And boundaries and walls, I think I've said this in other videos, are two different things. It's easy to build up walls. It's a trauma response, and you don't really let anybody in. But when you get more understanding of what your needs are, then asking for that in conversation, in dialogue, in working with others, then you can create safety for yourself to move forward in a way of authentic nature. And this level of safety, the boundaries can be fluid, where one day a boundary might be this, or in one certain situation, and allowing that to kind of move and flow and discover what it is for you. And also understand that your needs are important, and that the I, to figure it out for yourself, is for you alone and not for anybody else to tell you. And the way to do this is through interaction and learning to validate how you feel about certain things. And the second chakra, right, as the safety, as you know, that root chakra is very much about feeling supported, having a sense of connectedness to the earth, to your surroundings, to your environment. And when that is not, and when that's on not on safe ground within inside yourself or exteriorly, it affects everything. So this is really questioning for yourself how to redefine safety for you in this now moment. What does that look like? What is it that you are steps that you can do to empower yourself to explore what your needs are and to get those needs met in a safe way for yourself? And the elements, the spiritual elements that are earth elements, of course, is rocks and water. And it's very interesting. So when Spirit gave me those two elements, I really didn't kind of think of it. But for me, personally, I started adding trace minerals to my water, electrolytes, and those are the elements of rock and water. And it actually has really altered the state of my physical being and my brain function, just, the electrolytes, having proper electrolytes in your digestion, it just kind of really affects how your whole body can operate. So, just wanted to say how actually that's something I've already been playing with in a unknowingly kind of way. And let's see what else is there. A third theme for this month is for those of you who have stood in a truth for yourself. A lot of way showers, a lot of souls have been are here to kind of stand in a truth, to trailblaze. And it can be very lonely. And this can show up in family dynamics, this can show up in work, friend dynamics, all in so many different ways, in so many different structures. And one can feel very isolated in their experience, like nobody else understands, and you can question whether the road you're on is the right road or whatever. This month, there's going to be an opening for connection from more than one individual in a special kind of way. And so, there's this idea that you think that it needs to look a certain way with a certain person to get certain kind of either validation or to be valued, I guess, in what you're doing. First of all, when you validate yourself and start to value yourself, whether it's in the mirror or even just parenting to yourself, that's a beautiful gift. Because as that frequency is in your energy, those that can match that will start to show up in your reality. And it's this month, it's going to be a surprise who that is for you. For those that I'm talking to, it's a surprise. It's going to go beyond who and what you thought maybe that you needed or wanted or had a certain attachment to, as being that person to show up. But be open, and there's a collaboration, there's a union, of truth from the heart that is people are ready to acknowledge and break out of the system in which you have been holding and standing for many. Those are the main themes for this December month. And particularly really notice when there are parts of you, if you're trying to move forward in a certain way and it just hasn't yet, there's parts of you that have certain attachments. And when we ask Spirit, the angels, love, higher self, whatever it is, to really come in and nurture this aspect of you and question and see, what is it, and just what is it that could, and we don't even have to know. We can just invite a healing into this part of us. Bring a love to this self that is holding on. Ask it what it needs. And then just be open to the miracle of divine universe working with you and for you in a beautiful way. And there's one more. And to be open to this idea, when we want someone or other people outside of us to change so much so that we can have a certain outcome a certain way, look at that and kind of be like, well, I want them to change, but is there an aspect of you that you're projecting onto them that you're afraid to maybe make a change, and that you want everything around you to change instead of allowing yourself to level up because you're maybe scared or don't want a certain aspect of someone's actions or someone's way of being to be true? Because if it was true, then you might have to change and make a choice, and that's scary, and it's easier to try to control somebody else and put that energy onto somebody else instead of own it for yourself. Kind of just be aware of that and have compassion for yourself in this, and invite that loving energy to you. And see what unfolds. Call in strength, grace. There's this beautiful saying I heard. To change comes with feeling loved and safe. How can you give yourself more compassion and grace? And I just really love that affirmation, whatever it is, that little jingle. So I invite you to bring that into your space if that resonates with you. So sending you all much love, and wherever you are on your journey.